down in sunny Jupiter. We're here at Home Depot. I want to thank them for hosting us. I want to recognize the guests we have, Kevin Guthrie, Florida Division of Emergency Management, Senator Gail Harrell, and then our representatives, Caruso, Gerwig, and Peggy Gossett-Seidman. I want to thank them for being here. We're here because we are about to enter hurricane season for 2025. And you'll see Kevin Guthrie come up here and provide some updates and some recommendations from the Division of Emergency Management. Now, I really hope this is the only time you see me and Kevin Guthrie this summer. That would be great. And, you know, we can pray for that. And hopefully that ends up happening. We do deserve a little bit of a break. I mean, normally you'll have times where you'll have a bunch. I mean, we remember 2004-05 period, we had a bunch happen. Then we had 10 years where we didn't get one, and then now we've had 6 majors in 7 years, including 3 hurricanes, 2 major hurricanes last year in 2024, and then a 3rd, Hurricane Debbie. And so that's just the way historically I've seen that pattern. So hopefully we don't, but you can hope for that and you can pray for that, but you can't prepare to have no hurricanes. You got to prepare that it may be something that's going to impact us. And so we are here to talk about the need for individual Floridians to take proper precautions and to make sure that they have a disaster preparedness kit, that they have a response plan for themselves, their families, and their pets, and that if it comes to that, that you're in a situation where you're going to be able to do. I do think before we get into that, though, it is important to point out 2024, we had Hurricane Debbie hit in the Big Bend section of Florida on the West Coast. Then we had back-to-back Hurricane Helene and Hurricanes Milton. Both of those were major hurricanes. One of the things that we really work hard on in Florida is working with our utilities, not just the big private utilities like the Florida Power and Light, but also the municipalities, the rural co-ops, everything, to pre-stage as many resources as possible so that when the storm passes, people can work to have a rapid power restoration. And what I found just having studied these things, you know, as I was getting ready to become governor is, you know, when you have 2-3 weeks where people, not even in the eye of the storm, are just with no power, it causes huge problems for the whole recovery. And so what we've done with working with Kevin and in my office is, as soon as that storm goes, you will see these crews working to restore the power. So in Hurricane Debbie, you had everyone that could safely receive power, 100% restoration in 4 days. Helene and Milton, both with millions and millions of people without power at one point, and Milton got up to 4.2 million. You had 100% restoration of everyone that could receive power in 7 days. That has never been done quicker in any of these major hurricanes, and it does require us to help pre-stage. You house and feed all the linemen. You know, you'll see all these people flooding into Florida, 95, 75, I-10 coming in. We get the camp set up, and then boom. And I remember Hurricane Ian, which was 2022, Category 5, and it hit probably, I think it hit like the afternoon, like on a Wednesday afternoon, and literally by the time all the remnants left, you had these trucks moving in, and they were there working, and you had places, I don't know if Home Depot was open very quick, but Publix and Wawa and all these places, I mean, they were open almost immediately. Those types of things make it easier to be able to assist with response and recovery efforts. And so I want to thank everybody that's been involved with that. The power restoration, it's interesting because you look at something like a Florida Power and Light, I mean, they're a massive, well-oiled machine. They've got a lot of technology. They put a lot of resources to bear. You've also seen Duke and things like Tampa Electric also be able to do that. And when I first became governor, it was, okay, we'd expect those to get it done, but then some of the other ones, maybe the cooperatives or whatever, it wasn't necessarily something that was going to be done as good. And I remember in Ian, you had some issues. Well, this more recent time, the co-ops were the first to get 100%. So they were there. You had some of these are rural outfits. Jupiter, obviously, you guys are going to be, you guys are all FPL, I'm assuming, and you understand that. But as you get into some other parts of Florida, you have that. All of those entities, whether it was the most well-financed, high-power utility, or maybe one that wasn't as much, they all were ready and they all responded very quickly, and we really appreciate that. Now, through the Division of Emergency Management in the state of Florida, we were able to, during those storms, deliver and distribute more than 2.5 million shelf-stable meals, 1.5 million hot meals, 200,000 food boxes. We have provided shelter for over 80,000 survivors in 282 shelters across the state of Florida, distributed 5 million bottles of water, 170 truckloads of ice, 90,000 tarps, and over 1,500 generators. One of the things that we had to do, so, it's interesting, each storm will be different. Ian was a really big storm that hit Fort Myers and Sanibel in that area. But yet, you go back, I think we were on the ground there maybe the next day or a day and a half, and you had gas stations open. A lot of them had generators, and the Publix was doing generator stuff. So things just bounced back, and you had no fuel interruption because Ian didn't disable the ports on the west coast of Florida. Well, and then Helene, same thing. It had a lot of storm surge on the west coast of Florida, had a lot of problems, but it didn't necessarily interrupt the fuel. Now, we have fuel contracts and we do this. Well, Milton was a little bit different. It disabled Port Manatee and the Port of Tampa for a short period of time. That's where a lot of the fuel gets brought in to be able to service those gas stations in Tampa Bay and Sarasota and all those places. And so, we obviously work with the ports to help them get where they need to go, but because we have these fuel contracts, we set up all these gas stations ourselves around the Tampa Bay area, Sarasota, so people could go in and they could get gas. We didn't even charge anybody. You got free gas. Imagine that. People would wait in line for a long time for that too, because it's people just. You could do gas. It's interesting on what people are sensitive on price. If you're going down the street, if you have a gas station that is like 5 cents less than the one on you will have the line wait. People will wait to get that savings on gas. So they're very sensitive on gas prices, but we were able to do that, and so that was probably, I think we set it up and probably ran it 3 or 4 days, and then, gas stations were coming online every day, and then the port got to 100%, and then everything was fine. But this is the type of stuff to be able to be very flexible to see what's going to happen. Another thing that we did was we did this debris task force. Now, you guys on the East Coast haven't had an impact of a major, probably since 2004, 2005 period during those seasons. Now, I know you did get some nasty tornadoes that got flung off some of these other ones, which were very devastating. But, when you have a big hurricane come through, it can leave a lot of debris. And people have, their homes may get saturated, and then they're cutting out the drywall. They're doing all this stuff. So this stuff adds up. And you'll go to some of these other places that have been hit by hurricanes in other states, and there'll just be debris just sitting there, and nobody really does. So what we said was, we really want to get this debris moving. Now, this is municipal governments have debris contracts, county governments have debris contracts. The state is not in the debris management business. That's just not how things go. You guys have your trash and all that stuff. Those are local services. But with Kevin's leadership, we've stressed you got to have these contracts in place. You got to have these folks ready to go. And that had even more more importance when after Helene we saw Milton forming. Well, guess what? Milton was going to go on a similar track and impact a similar area than what Helene just did. So you had massive amounts of debris on the beaches in Pinellas County, in Bradenton, in Sarasota, all those areas. And it's like, okay, you're going to have a massive storm, then the debris is just going to get picked up and then projectiles everywhere. So we launched a debris initiative to be able to go in. So we paused, this is unprecedented, we paused all of our road work, everything our Department of any dump truck under the control of the state of Florida was sent over to where Helene had hit, and they are doing debris 24/7. And we said it needed to be 24/7. One of the counties, Pinellas County, did not follow that executive order, and they locked up their landfill. Well, we sent in the cavalry to cut the locks, open the gate, and get that debris going, because that's what you needed to do. And we had citizens loading up their Ford F-150s, F-250s, you name it, bringing it in round the clock. And we were able to clear so much debris. And we also got from the Biden administration 100% reimbursement for all debris cleanup. So we told them, we created a debris dashboard where citizens could see how much their city or county was doing, because basically it was free to them. They were going to get reimbursed for 100% of the cost, so get it done. And I got to say, that's probably been the fastest debris pickup that we've ever seen after a major hurricane. And in fact, I'm down in Longboat Key. I was doing some charity event a few weeks ago, and you're pulling down there, you wouldn't have known a hurricane. They got hit by two. They got hit by Helene, and then they got hit by Milton. And you go through there, and it's just like bustling, tourists everywhere. People are building whatever they're doing, and you didn't see like massive debris sitting everywhere. So I think that people really handled that in a good way, and I know it was really Kevin and his team, setting up these incentives. We worked with the federal government to get that reimbursement. I don't know if we're going to get reimbursement going forward, certainly not at that level from what we're seeing. But I think what happened with Milton was Helene happened, and then you had like Western North Carolina, all this stuff, and it was like, where's the federal government? Like, people were like, where's the president, all this stuff? And so I think the Biden administration was very sensitive on the heels of that. With Milton, they bent over backwards to be able to do, so we were able to get 100% of the debris cleanup, which we think is really, really good. So during that hurricane season, 2024, Florida Division of Emergency Management distributed $12 billion in recovery funding. That's the most that has ever been paid out within 6 years. And they've administered $244 million in preparedness grants. And so some of these things are more immediate. Some of these things are more some of the long-term stuff. I know Kevin will discuss some of that. Now, we are still responding. As we were still responding to Hurricane Helene, we were able to get things, and this is kind of how Florida does it. You looked at Western North Carolina after Helene, it was like no one was really there, right? And some people were saying FEMA needed to be there. Our view on that is we don't rely on FEMA for any of the preparation or response efforts. Now, they obviously have programs that the federal government has where if you're impacted, you can apply for individual assistance. Or if a municipality wants to get reimbursed, they can do if your certain triggers are met. And that obviously is fine, and people should do that. But in terms of getting people ready and prepared, and the messaging and the other things that go into that, that is really the state leading that with locals executing that. And we assume we're not going to get support from FEMA on all those things, and sure enough, that's how we've rolled. And so power restoration, the immediate distribution of supplies and meals. When we had to do the gas stations, we did that. All these different things is really being done by both the state of Florida and your local emergency management operators. And so we're proud to do that. We think it's important for the state. Obviously, when you're a peninsula sitting out in the middle of a tropical part of the world, you have no choice but to lean in on this stuff. And we gladly do that. So because of that, when Helene hit, You had a massive response effort. You stabilized the situation very quickly. There were hundreds and hundreds of rescues that were done, and you stabilized. And where it hit ground zero, there was not a single fatality up in Franklin or Taylor County. Not one fatality, which for a storm of that magnitude is pretty incredible. So that was good preparation, good coordination with the locals. You do that. So the dust settles 24 hours later, like we really don't have any more rescues to go. We're not getting any requests from the counties at that point beyond things that we would need. But in terms of that immediate rescue, we didn't have it.